Hey, what is happening? It's good to see you all again. Oh, everybody looks good. I'm surprised. I've put on a little bit of weight over the holidays. I'm gonna drop it directly. The reason for today's video is because I'm humbly showing up with hat in hand. Oh my gosh, did I screw up. I had €5 on the table. We had just finished a hunt down in Texas. One of them was a crown mount, the rest were euros. Can you see where this is going? I reached up, took a Sawzall and cut the horns off the wrong deer. Oh my gosh, I feel sick about it. Luckily, it's for Uncle Bud and he's like, oh, it's okay. And I love that man, but it's not okay. I said, let me have it. I'm gonna actually see if I can do a film on how to repair it. I don't know if anybody's ever made this mistake, but I hope it's the last time. So I wound up Euroing the skull. This is actually a good reference piece. We'll be able to look into a lot of this and answer a lot of our questions. And this is the set of horns. Thank goodness I cut it off to do a crown mount and not to do an actual mount. So it's actually gonna go together pretty good. I cleaned it and whitened it at the same time. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take up some close-up pictures of the inside of the skull to help answer some of the questions on what's going on in there. Then I'm gonna anchor a few screws in and out. I'm gonna fill it full of Bondo with white hardener. Hopefully it'll ooze out of my 2 visual seams, and then I'm gonna trim it off. If I can't get the color right, then I'm gonna brush that Bondo into a few of the places, and I'm gonna try and sand blend it. I've never done this, so I don't know, but something is better than nothing. See how I did not take out those skittle light. That is with the auditory boule still in there. See that yellow on it? That's the stuff that gets trapped in there. That's why I take those out. All right, my first step here, like I said, I'm gonna put 4 screws into the skull cap and the brain cavity. So I'm just gonna hand tighten a few into the auditory boule, and then I'm gonna screw right into the antler base, nice and tight. That way, when I fill that entire brain cavity full of Bondo, it's gonna be grabbing from 4 different points, kind of holding everything together. Next step here, I'm gonna take a little bit of paper towel and I'm gonna plug every little hole on the inside of that brain cavity that could essentially leak Bondo. So the brain cavity itself, that little hole behind the eye socket that leads to the brain, all that stuff, I'm gonna plug it up. Let's do a base layer, because the color won't so much matter. I'm not a fan of these little tiny sticks, but that's all I got left. I mixed that first batch up, stuffed it down in the brain cavity, and then test fit the skull cap or the crown of that deer into the hole and checked it. It gave me a real rough volume of how much more I need. So I'm essentially just gonna double the batch, put it right back together, and squeeze it all down. I can tell instantly that the color's not right, so I'm gonna have to do some recoloring somewhere down the line. Hey, so none of that worked like I thought it would. Not the right color, not the right temperature, not the right fit. Anybody out there an airbrusher or a painter where you can just paint it up for me? I can fill the crack. I can make it smooth, but I'm concerned about the transition color. Like I'm gonna have a gray line, a white line, some other colored line. White hardener with gray filler does not make white Bondo. Just doesn't happen. I got plenty of product in there. I think the screws on both places was a great idea. I think plugging the holes, like the brain, was a great idea. I think not cutting the skull off in the first place would have been the best idea. I'm not gonna mess with it anymore tonight. I'm just gonna get it to where it'll sit on its own. And I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna give it like a real cure time. And then I'll come back and revisit it properly, but I think it's going to take a ton of sanding. I'm sure I could have done some more smoothing while it was before it was going to set, but at this point, leave well enough alone. Next step here, I'm going to trim off some of the excess Bondo that kind of squeeged through all that brain cavity, if you will. I'm using the same old silverware IBK, the 70 XT blade. This is not something that's designed for heavy duty work, so I'm trying to be delicate here, slicing through. Heavy Bondo becomes almost rubberized and it's easy to slice. Then I'm just gonna sand. I've got part of this with a little Dremel tool where I've cleaned up some stuff. I'm just gonna try and get everything smooth and take a really good look at what I've got in front of me from a transition standpoint and a color standpoint. All right, I have sanded, filled, refilled, sanded, filled, refilled, ground, sand, you name it, I've done it all, and I'm frustrated with the fact that I can't get the color even remotely close. I'm saving you all that film because it's just junk. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rattle can this skull with a chalky white. I hate a painted skull, but I think this is my best bet to making everything kind of blend in one color. Again, the hunter, Uncle Bud, he's totally fine with whatever I give him back. I just want it to look like I gave it 110% and that I've owned the mistake and that maybe all of you can learn from something that I did wrong. I don't want it to look perfect. I really don't want it to look perfect, but I don't know what else to do on that line. So I've just covered the antlers and I'm gonna give it a real gentle fog. Just a fog well enough to where if I had to, I could power wash it off. But for right now, I'm gonna see how well it blends. I know my front seam that's gonna be on the wall looks good enough. The back seam has a little bump. Naturally, I removed some material, so it was gonna be something. It's really hard to get in there and sand. This is when I need one of those professionals like Hunter Richardson from US Skull Hunter. That dude's wicked talented when it comes to this sort of thing. If you're not following him, give him a look. He's a great dude. He's constantly sending me stuff, keeping me in the know. Awesome. I need to have him come over and carve something cool to get rid of that big old line I cut in there. Anyway, let's take it out in the yard. Rattle can it. Ah, dang it, I hate painting skulls. Okay, y'all, there's the finished skull. No, I'm not real happy with it, but it does look better than if it just got cut off. That chalky white Krylon paint, actually, I'm really impressed with. It looks really close to the original color. I didn't put so much on to where I lost the detail in the seams or the nasal cavity or any of this stuff. You can still see all that stuff. That's really, really nice. You can absolutely see where the seam was top and bottom, especially if you knew where you were looking. But all in all, it's better than having the skull just completely lost and crown mounting it. I put a permanent Casey Krennic skull mount on there. Normally that goes up into the brain hole, but because I filled it full of Bondo, I cut that little tab with a bandsaw and then I screwed it in permanent, and we can adjust height via this tab here. But it's a fantastic buck, a beautiful representative of a West Texas mule deer with a really cool little drop tine. I'm sorry for my mistake, but I'm grateful that I was able to learn from it and that it's behind me, and I'll just need to pay more attention in the future. Thank you, like always, for watching.